We back in the lab, we making some noise, so go turn your decibels up. Black skin, white coat, oh no, who was nice as us? Made Jimison really told us no limits, so we about to take this up. Went from mixing in the kitchen to the lab, and now I can make this up. Whoa! B-SCI, be scientist, B-SCI, be scientist. We shining a light on the people of color to show them how fly it is. B-SCI, be scientist, B-SCI, be scientist. We back in the lab with white coats on our back, time to show what time it is. Hey.
Black Science Coalition and Institute, or B-SCI. When you hear this noise, that is our podcast citation. So please check out our citation list on b-i.org/bscientist. And as always, we have the dope chemist herself,
Jana Carpenter.
I'm not sure if I said my name.
Yeah, what's your name, dude?
I'm Jordan.
Oh, okay, cool. Nice to meet you, Jordan.
I'm a geoarchaeologist. That's just how this year has been going.
Yeah, 2021's been interesting for sure, and it's got its side effects, I would say.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's been overall. How do you feel about this year?
I feel like I might still be alive.
Fair.
I think.
Yeah.
It might be a Mandela effect. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Just kidding. I'm here. I'm good.
Okay.
How
cool.
are you?
Chilling, I guess. It's been a weird year.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could say anything besides that. I don't think there's any other word besides weird. I'm sure there is. I just don't have the vocabulary for it. So it's been a weird year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could treat it like every other major corporation after a tough year that we all realize was after things change, after the it's just the aftermath of the pandemic in 2020.
Yeah.
Can't say that my vision's gotten any better, but I've seen some things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't even know what to say, Jenna. It's just been...
Yeah, I mean, certainly I feel a little bit more like I understand what grad school is as an institution.
As an institution, it's a good way to put it.
Do I feel smarter? No. No. In fact, I feel less smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's great and stuff.
That's great and stuff, yeah.
But yeah, I guess we've both kind of had some ups and some downs from 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into all the details about some of the things that's happened because they're still kind of in flux, but I'll talk about it when I have more information.
Right. For me, at least, I think that my mental health has taken a downturn as a side effect of 2021, 2020, the pandemic and just the culture of grad school has kind of just weighed down on me a little bit more than I was anticipating. I don't know that I should say much else besides that, but it's definitely not been great.
I mean, I've honestly had similar experiences, to be honest. Grad school culture puts a huge toll on your mental health, honestly. And then having to do it in a pandemic does not make it easier.
And especially not being Black.
Oh, no.
So there's just so many layers. But yeah, I mean, what are some good things that have been happening? Right.
So today we're going to talk about the 21 good and bad things we liked and hated about 2021.
Yeah,
we made a list.
You gotta take the good and then you gotta take the bad and you gotta take them both.
Right, exactly.
That's what I've heard. So
no, it's fair. So we're gonna start from the bottom of our list, starting with number 11, gaining new members. It's not like we gained a lot of new members, but our community did grow this year. We didn't really. I don't know when we started actually putting it out there that we were taking members now, to be honest.
I feel like probably towards the beginning of the year, Janae definitely kind of boosted that a lot on social media. And I think as a result, that might have been some of the gain that we earned, starting in the beginning and then honestly, throughout, it's just seemed like a lot more people are interested in what we do and have honestly offered a lot of really good input.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't get a chance to go to some of our meetings at the end of the year, but yeah, it seemed like people who were coming into those were putting out really good ideas.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of them were showing up to the general meetings, and it was really great to be able to, get to know new people and hear perspectives that I needed to hear, because a lot of these ideas I would have never been able to think of. So I think it's just been nice to grow our community and be able to kind of expand our perspective a little bit.
Yeah, I'm excited to have a full year with really advertising that we will be accepting members and seeing where it goes from there. Especially since we've been talking for a while now about the magazine, which is, I think, I actually was working on that not too long ago, and it's finally like looking like something that you would see in a magazine. If that makes sense. I don't know, but it's coming together, and the final part of it is just making sure that when people visit the site, that they can read it okay, and then also if people are writers, that they can access it fairly easily. And then after that, I mean, it'll be pretty smooth. But I hope our members are part of that too.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be something really special, I think, that we've all been really looking forward to, like, getting off the ground. So, yeah, the more the merrier. And I think it'll be something really good for us in the new year. So,
Right. So, switching over to the bottom of our list of things that we did not like.
womp womp.
Right. Pipelines along indigenous reservations in land important to wildlife reserves. So that was one you put. Can you explain it for me a little bit?
Yeah. So, of course, I think maybe some of us might remember last year during 2020 when the Trump administration kind of pushed forward the pipeline construction in Alaska, and this cuts across all kinds of really important wildlife, not to also include indigenous land. And so already a lot of this area occupied by indigenous people has already been just like exploited. There's already been conditions of poor water quality in these areas. And a lot of the protesting that went on was done by indigenous people who are arrested for fighting for their own land, which made no sense.
Definitely doesn't make any sense.
And so now the Biden administration has not been so forthcoming on stopping this pipeline, not only just in Alaska, but also now in Minnesota. And so this is still ongoing, and it's affecting a lot of people and a lot of wildlife. And I think it's just not great all around. Not in any case where indigenous people are being exploited. I'm just like, seriously,
Right.
America, are we really going to go down this line
Again.
But yeah, this is something like, we have the power to talk about and bring awareness to, and talk to your senators, and send letters and call them, because this is not okay.
Yeah, it's all from all levels of politics, local, state, and national. Because I'm sure there are parts of that are working on all those levels. Like, because your state houses have been, well, that's on our list. We won't get to that yet. But yeah, I mean, state houses are also really important to those things. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, just to, for clarification, this pipeline is for oil. So, in a land where we are trying to promote better practices of more renewable sources of energy, having this is really taking us a 1,000 steps back, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
So
yeah, that's fair. So a sandwich, right? We're basically going. It's a good, bad, good. So number 10 on our list for good things. So Jenna just talked about the 10 on our list for bad things. For 10 on our list for good things. Several people in B-SCI were recognized for different, I guess, accolades.
Yeah.
Throughout the year. you and I and Chad all were in Shout Out Atlanta at different points this year. Chad and I were also in Voyage ATL, which is, I think, a related media outlet to Shout Out Atlanta. Chad was also in Forbes, I think.
Yeah, Forbes The Culture.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a play on words for the culture.
I just got that, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, we work so hard for B-SCI, and we're also like working on our side hustles at the same time, like, you know, just honing our skills and our expertise. So I thought it was really cool that, you know, all of the hard work is being recognized.
Right. And I'm gonna guess too. I don't know for sure, but I would put money on the fact that, like, Chanel and Dr. Towson, which Dr. Towson and Janae probably got some stuff too. I know for a fact that Dr. Towson is always doing something big. So if she didn't get recognized for something, that's pretty much a crime.
Agreed.
And they should probably go to jail if they didn't recognize her. Janae, I mean, Janae had a baby.
Yeah, Janae had a child, like a whole child.
Right.
A beautiful, beautiful child. And she's still hustling. Like, she's still getting stuff done.
I don't know how she does it, honestly.
Yeah, the chapter there, they are also working hard to like still schedule things. And so I'm just like, everyone is so cool. Like, I'm just like trying to get on everyone else's level, basically.
Yeah, same, honestly.
But for sure, like Dr. Chanel, like, I always see she's doing live. She's on TV.
Right.
Like, she's just doing the thing. And like,
Thanks.
please follow her TikTok, because she's about to blow up. And I just want y'all to get there before she goes viral. You know what I'm saying?
It's at Toxin T.
Yep.
Yeah. Happy for all of you guys. Keep doing your thing. And then number 9 on the bad side list. It just also sounds like a good Christmas list. It sounds like we're Santa Claus. We're like signing Santa Claus right now.
This is the good and the naughty list, I guess.
Naughty
and we're checking the list twice.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna find out who is naughty and who is nice.
Right. Exactly.
Because Santa Claus. Okay, I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Fair. But on that bad side list, we did lose an activist, Bell Hooks, and Jenna was explaining to me who she was earlier. Could you do that again for me?
Yeah. So Bell Hooks unfortunately died this past week at the age of 69, and a lot of us know Bell Hooks by the surname that she used, and her government name, I guess you could say. It's Gloria Jean Watkins. And so she was really known by her pen name, Bell Hooks. But she is an author, a professor, a feminist, a social activist, always touting for Black people and Black women. There's just so many quotes that we say all the time that we don't even just realize actually come from her. So it's just a major loss in the community. And here, I'll just pull up a quick quote now just so that we can all kind of, maybe you've heard this, maybe you haven't. But there's a quote that says, "The moment we choose to love, we begin to move towards freedom, to act in ways that liberate ourselves and others." You know, it's beautiful. It's
nice.
Poetry. And it's just really a shock to our community and to a lot of Black women who really looked up to her. And so to have this loss is just kind of tragic. But I am glad to see, you know, all over Twitter, all over Black Twitter, you know, people are starting to recognize who she was. And I just hope that we can continue to lift up her legacy. So, yeah.
No, that's her. I honestly, I don't think I recognize who she was. It's nice to hear her. One, it's nice to know that there are so many people out there who are working to make the Black community better. And then having a chance to learn about them, even if the reasons why you learn about them might be because of their past, and you still learn about their contributions. So I'm sure she was a great person.
Yeah, and she will be dearly missed. But yeah, look her up if you haven't heard of her before. Now is the perfect time. You've probably seen it on Twitter or Instagram or wherever you consume media. So yeah, look into it for sure.
Cool. So number 9 on our good side of the list. We've had a lot of guests on Be Scientists this year, and they were all fantastic, actually. Like, those were some of my favorites, to be honest. Like, I think we had Chanel, actually, on here earlier this year, and I think that was one of, I cannot lie and say that many came close to that one. That was a great episode.
Yes. Like, I always love whenever we get a chance to have Dr. Chanel Colson on. Like, we had her on the live stream.
We did,
and
yeah.
We were able to, like, bring her in earlier this year, and it was just like, she's such a great speaker. She's such a great science communicator, and everyone always just gets so excited whenever she comes on, and like, I feel like you can feel the excitement when we talk to her. So
honestly, she got so much energy.
She really does, and she always has something amazing to say.
Right.
And, like, it's always quotable, and I'm like, wow, yes, I love all of this. So,
Dr. Dawson, if you're listening, you should start a quote book. I would definitely. You should start. If you started a self-help book, I would definitely read it.
Absolutely. Maybe this is a little 2022 project that you could look into.
Hey, listen, I'm right there. I'm gonna be the first New York Times bestseller first week, easily. Go on, let's do it.
Exactly. But yeah, we had Janaea Griffin. Oh my goodness, also amazing.
Right.
We were also able to have Janae.
We had Janae on too. Yeah,
which was awesome.
We had Janae on with Dr. Thean Griffin.
Yes.
Who is the author of
The Magnificent Makers.
That's what it is. Magnificent Makers.
Yes.
Again, New Age Magnet School Bus. Highly recommend. Go check it out.
Absolutely. And we had Dr. Deborah Kamin Mukaz.
Black and Next. That's Black and Cardio.
Yes. Yeah. Black and Cardio. Like, people from Black and X community. Like, it's just so cool. And we had Dr. Jordan Booker. With developmental psychology.
Right.
We had Bree Sims, Dr. Bree Sims. Hey, we got to see her right before she.
Yeah, we got to see her before.
Yeah, so that was really cool. She's with STEMmed by Bree.
Right.
Or STEM Ed.
STEM Ed by Bree.
But both go hard, so it's great.
We also just had Dr. Michael J. Williams on here, a Philly scientist in the building. Hey.
Yes, it was cool to see y'all vibing. Like, I was just like, yeah, I can sense the Philly vibes for sure. Like, this all makes a lot of sense for sure.
Cool. Yeah, but we also we're obviously going to keep looking for guests next year. We've been talking a lot about who we would have. We already have ideas, and I think we're going to get some really amazing guests next year too. So if you know someone who should be on Be Scientists, just let them know about us and tell them to reach out. Because that's kind of what happens sometimes. Like, sometimes people will be like, oh, I heard your podcast. Can I be on your podcast? And they were on the podcast. So listen, like, that could happen to somebody Yeah.
And it could be you, right?
It could be you.
Like, hey, let's link up.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah, like, for sure. I think we have a couple people that we already are interested in talking to. But for real, like, we can't do this without you. So please let us know if there's someone that that would be a great fit for the podcast, because I'm sure we would want to have them on.
Right.
Literally anyone. Like,
listen.
Just show up.
Yeah, show up. So number 8. See, that's why we got to listen. We got to check it twice. We're on 8. So on 8, bad side of the list, super bad, is the outcome of the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Again, just a crazy year. That was a continuous aspect of 2020. So, if you remember from 2020, there was the shooting in Wisconsin, and Kyle Rittenhouse was the shooter. So seeing that play out, where he was found not guilty on so many of those charges, was a little disappointing.
Yeah, I think it's disappointing. I think more so in the fact that it wasn't surprising.
Right.
Because everyone I was talking to, the first thing they would say, without even giving any context, was, "Are you surprised?" And I would be like, no, I'm not. I'm really not. Because continually in this country, I keep seeing a trend of, well, not even a trend. It's been ingrained in our system of racial injustice, of just having corrupted justice systems. If you paid attention during the Kyle Rittenhouse case, you could just see blatant acts of injustice with the judge.
Yeah.
Like I could stop right there. Like, it's just really crazy to see that happen in 4K, as the kids say. Like it was wild.
4K.
You really could see it
Yeah.
like right there. Like, so
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I remember that week as it was all happening, there was one charge that I saw that he wasn't going to be guilty for before the rest came in. And I was like, man, if he's not guilty for that, they're not going to find him guilty for anything else. Now, there were some parts of the trial that were like, okay, sure, like I'll even fine. Like there was, I guess, one of the people that he shot apparently had some mental health problems or something like that. But it still goes back to the fact that this teenage boy was like, I'm going to travel to a different state to basically be a vigilante and be basically rewarded for that. Like fundamentally, that's what happened in this trial. So yeah, sure, there were some other things that happened that make it seem like but it's just like, but that's still the fundamental thing that happened. It's like he was like, I'm going to go armed to a protest. Like that is an inciting event by itself. Like that to me doesn't seem right. But apparently the justice system does not agree. So there's that.
Yeah, I don't understand how you can just show up to a protest with an AR-15 and just be like, oh, I wasn't planning to kill people.
No.
Like, are you kidding me?
That's ridiculous.
Are you kidding me? Anyway.
Right. So, on the good side of the list, STEM Noir.
STEM Noir was amazing. It was a wellness retreat for Black and brown women in STEM. To be recognized and to really have a sense of community amongst each other. There are so many great speakers, keynote speakers. The whole thing was just amazing. And it was so well organized by everyone at STEM Noir, including Dr. Chanel Tolson.
Again.
In the building, always. And so it was just amazing. And even though it was virtual, I think it really paid off for a lot of people who were feeling down. And so it's so important to have things like that. And I'm really looking forward to 2022. Hopefully if things kind of chill out with these variants just coming up left and right. Because
with these variants.
Because the 2022 retreat is supposed to happen in Puerto Rico.
What?
So, yeah, I'm trying to go to that.
I'm not jealous. It's fine.
No, I mean, yeah,
I'm
whatever.
jealous. I'm jealous.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just something that was really good. A really great thing to happen in 2021. Something that we really needed to happen, honestly.
Puerto Rico. Oh, my God.
Right? Puerto Rico. Like, I'm trying to be on the beach. You know what I mean?
When is it? This one was in like June-ish.
Yeah, so this one was in June. So I'm assuming the next one will also be somewhere around that time period. I don't think a date has been settled on just yet.
Puerto Rico in June.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
I mean, you could like book a hotel next to us and be like, "Hey guys, what's up?"
That might
I
be
just happened to be here.
That might be a little creepy. I'm gonna let y'all.
You gonna let us have that one? Okay.
But I am jealous.
But yeah.
So moving to number 7 for good and bad, voting laws being challenged across the U.S. There's only so much we can say about this, honestly, because we are not a political organization. We're a nonprofit. However, we will talk about it and saying that it seems like very much like this is all in response. In fact, I won't even say it seems. It is in response to a lot of the things that happened in the 2020 election, and it definitely seems like a power play. And it's very disappointing because a lot of these voting laws that are being challenged seem specifically targeted at underrepresented groups and hoping to suppress those groups from voting, which is highly disappointing.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's something that I hoped wouldn't happen, but of course, when things happen, that Yeah, it's hard to talk about this one without getting too political. But the whole point is that underrepresented communities are being marginalized in this case.
Again.
And yeah, this is not okay because this is downstream of a lot of different things that could happen, outcomes that could happen as a result that relate to health and in the environment and everything. These are all connected themes. So it's just something to really look out for and to advocate for, because I don't see this simmering down anytime soon, unfortunately.
No, and it's also just poorly timed because we are coming out of the census, which means that a lot of the district lines and things like that are supposed to be, the balance for what communities vote on certain issues. Like that whole system is now in flux. So for these to come up about now, for these challenges to all these voting laws to come up, and with gerrymandering being a thing, and all of this redistricting happening, it makes the political landscape. There's a lot of concern out there, to say the very least. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't vote.
Definitely not saying that.
Just go vote, but just be aware of those things, and just make sure you do your due diligence before you go vote later this year, as we are approaching midterm election season. So be prepared for that. We're a nonprofit. We can't really throw our hats behind anybody, but we are excited about some of the things that are happening out there.
Yeah, so definitely just make sure you're registered to vote. Don't let them take your vote. Just make sure.
Because they're trying right now.
Oh, yeah.
So don't let them happen. I don't know why you would lay down for that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so number 8. Still on number 8, but this time on the good side. Perseverance landing on Mars.
Wow. So cool.
It's dope. It's dope. Like, with all the political stuff happening, it's nice to just be like, hey, we put something else far away from here that has not the same political implications as other things. So that was cool to see.
Absolutely. And to also bring along so many different kinds of science that we can now explore on Mars, like the Raman spectroscopy aspect really is cool to me. Just everything, the sampling methods that they're able to like pull off with this mission is like just beyond the scope of what I thought was possible. So,
and beyond the scope of what I understand, honestly.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what all we can learn from this.
See, because I'm such like a huge, like, I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest space nerd, but I try to pay attention. I found recently that when they first announced that they were going to be sending a rover or to Mars, basically, or another one, that they had gave out like tickets, like airline tickets, basically, on NASA. And I found the one that I did, and I was very excited to see that I did that. I was like, this paid off. And was it a major accomplishment for me? No, not really. Is it insignificant? Probably, but I did it, and I'm happy about it.
Yes.
So moving on from that, we're going to our number 6 spots. On that bad side, this one happened very recently, within the last couple of weeks. A tornado went through Lexington, Kentucky, and other parts of the Midwest. And I think about 80 people. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's still people missing all throughout this area, unfortunately, and it's really been pretty devastating, and they've had to put themselves in a state of emergency, obviously, because this happened so fast and was pretty unexpected, I think, for this time of the year. And unfortunately, it seems like there was a lot of foul play at the hands of corporations who weren't really allowing people to leave their job at this time. And the thing with tornadoes is you really don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And so a lot of these people who were missing or now were found died at the hands of this tornado, this tragic disaster. They weren't able to see their families at all before this happened. And I think it's just really tragic and kind of speaks to a lot of the injustice to people who work in these industries there's a lot of different industries being affected right now, who are trying to fight back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just really tragic, and my heart just goes out to those who have lost either a loved one or their home, right? So
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's sad because I guess it's always kind of floating out there, but unionization has been a real hot button topic in 2021, and I'm really just putting that together in my head as you're talking about it, because, and it's not just some of those corporations that have been talked about in this tornado, because I know Amazon is one that's been brought up, but then there have been other industries that have been trying to unionize. I like, for example, even with us podcasting, I just found out yesterday that iHeartRadio employees are unionizing, which is a big step, because that's one of the major podcast corporations in the game. So that's nice to hear. But then just across the board, because of the pandemic, with rising inflation and all those things, that, you know, having people not have a way to express themselves and try to get better working conditions.
Yeah, I think Kellogg is another one
that unionize.
They're fighting for better, just employee rights, and Kellogg is not.
It's not having it. Frosted Flakes not having it.
Yeah.
Come on now, Tony. What you doing?
Exactly.
Come on. What?
Yeah, it's terrible. Nah. So.
Well, I guess I'm not eating Frosted Flakes anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is probably for the better. Honestly, I'm not even upset. Like, usually we try to stay away from attacking people, but like, one, it's just sugar. So like, I can find something else.
Exactly. Shop local. If anything. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, before we attack another corporation, let's try to get to the good side of the list. One thing we did this year was we spoke with a high school in Wisconsin, which was cool. It was me, Chad, and another one of our newer members, basically. I think she was, I forget her name right now, and I apologize. She was part of the USC chapter, University of South Carolina chapter of B-SCI. And it was a good event. Honestly, thinking about it now, this year, besides that event, and there were some other ones on here actually that we'll talk about, but we had the most events in our second year, which is nice to see, because last year with everything happening, we were very much kind of just trying to figure that out, like what we were going to do. But we had a number of events this year that were live or incorporated people so that they can take place. Like, we usually just do the podcast, but this year we had events that people could take part in. So that was great. I love that aspect of it. It was, as we were talking about earlier, with just meeting members, like, that's always nice. And then in this event specifically, when talking to high school students, it was nice to just have the chance to like talk about the things that I wish I was aware of when I was a high school student, because I was not thinking about being a scientist.
Yeah, no, the public service that was you guys were able to do, it's like so important and part of like the mission that we're trying to put forth and educate the youth and let them know that it's possible.
Right.
It's so possible.
Be scientists.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought that was really cool, and the sky's the limit. There's more students that we should be talking to and who want to hear from us. So
yeah, and I also think next year we'll try to make that something that is known that we can do, since we've done it. And as we'll talk about later, there are reasons why that could happen. So that was number 6. We're gonna move on to the 5 list, or our 5 things we liked and hated. On the bad side, Texas has a number of problems. Actually, I'm looking at our list right now, and they go back to back. But let's start with the fact that Texas courts are basically challenging Roe v. Wade, which basically has to do with a woman's right to abort. I don't remember at what week it is, but my understanding of this whole thing is that basically, if you even like try to help someone who wants to abort in Texas, that you could be sued And it's basically the threat of suing you that is the challenge, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, putting a bounty on a woman choosing
Yeah.
what to do with her body is some of the most evil things I've ever heard of.
Yeah, honestly.
And the fact that it's just happening in broad daylight, like, yeah, you can sue someone choosing to go have an abortion. I think that's wild. I think that's really wild to put a bounty on a person like that.
The fact that you're even saying bounties, just immediately thinking like, this is either the Wild Wild West or it's 1300 Europe. Like, what are we doing right now?
Yeah, neither of which I want to be living in.
No.
The last I checked, it's 2021, about to be 2022, and here we are falling back in ancient history. Like,
Honestly.
what I thought was ancient history, but is continuing to be just, repeating history. It feels like. But the thing that I want to drive home is that you can't eradicate abortion. You will only make it unsafe.
Right.
Because you're just kind of choosing to not think about other people other than your own agenda, which I think is just disgusting. A woman a woman choosing to have an abortion has nothing to do with you,
No.
right? Like, no, they don't owe you an explanation, right? So, like, I just think it's wild that we're having to make that case, and it's happening not just in Texas. They just decided to plant the seed, but now it's really kind of spreading across the South, mostly in parts of the Midwest, I think. But Georgia is right on the heels with the heartbeat bill, so this is really something to pay attention to if you care about people who are able to reproduce. So just think about that.
And it's crazy too, because it's basically like we already established this because Roe v. Wade. So why are we? It's just crazy to think that we have to have this conversation again. But here we are going into 2022.
Here we are.
And on that note, let's move on to, actually, this is kind of appropriate for this. Earlier this year, in February, I believe, B-SCI worked with the National Science Policy Network to do an event on Black comic scientists. What we did was we just talked about how nerdy we were. It was called Black and Afrofuturism, I believe, in comics. And we just talked about a lot of the comic books that we grew up with. Like, I know, for example, that Khalil was a really big comic book dude. So he talked about some of the ones that you might have already known about, but there were also ones that are like newer and kind of like indie that he talked about too. And even recently, for example, like during that event, we talked about a comic book character named Naomi, who's like a Black comic book character, and she's going to get a show on CW. And I just saw the first teaser trailer for that not too long ago, and I think Lawrence Fishburne is like helping to produce it or something.
What?
So, like, I really like that event. But I think it's appropriate because, as we were just talking about with this Texas thing, and Texas is about to come up again, the National Science Policy Network is a great community for young and upcoming scientists, usually in college, but I'm sure they would be happy to have people who are a little bit younger than that. But anyway, it's a great community to talk to other scientists who are committed to being in that political realm and trying to make the world a better place. And I say that because as we get to the number 4 things on both our good and bad list, here comes Texas again, because earlier this year, again, Texas had a power grid failure that was super preventable. And if I'm not mistaken, we talked about this one actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we did. Mm-hmm. Everything is bigger in Texas, including their ability to just create so many problems for themselves. Mm-hmm. And not the people, right? Just the people who are in charge.
Right.
Just causing all kinds of havoc, wreaking havoc everywhere.
Ridiculous.
But yeah, this is something that was completely avoidable, should not have happened. Left a lot of people in really dangerous conditions. Yeah, like flooding happening because pipes were bursting.
Right.
That was pretty scary.
Yeah.
People's houses literally getting destroyed from this.
Easily preventable thing.
But yeah, this was as a result of not indirectly, directly related to climate change, because they were hitting record low numbers,
Right.
that just are not usual for Texas. But on top of that, just safety violations left and right that should have been handled well in advance of this, that were just ignored, frankly. So, yeah,
Good job,
really,
Texas.
really bad, Texas.
Yeah. It seems like you had a great year.
Yeah, just total dumpster fire.
Yep. So let's go to the Casals before we rag on Texas again.
Yeah.
All right. So one thing that happened earlier this year too that was kind of surprising actually is that we were podcast of the month for women in science and engineering research at Northwestern, or Wiser New Grad, which we didn't even know we were up for when it happened.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was like, oh my God, did you see this?
Yeah.
And Jordan was like, yeah, I saw it. And I was like, what?
I just remember it's like, who are these people? It's like, what happened? We never knew we were up for it, but we appreciate it and thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool to know that people are like listening, like not just here in Georgia, but like not even just in Philly, but like all over the place.
Apparently. Actually, I'm thinking about. I recently looked at our podcast statistics, and I think people in Texas were listening. So, listen, Texas,
sorry.
It's not you. It's not necessarily you. It's the people who are really into you. Just get that together.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that was cool. Yeah, but like you said, like it's cool to see that we get people listening in places that we don't really expect sometimes. I think again, looking at the podcast statistics, I saw like people in like Europe, which I'm like, who?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. It truly is.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, and it's not like I can kind of think about who it might have been, but it's just like, it's still just wild to think that we have that reach.
Yeah.
And moving on to another, we're in the top three now. Top three of both the good and bad list, so things are going to get kind of heavy. Starting off with another three on the bad side was the January 6th insurrection, also known as the Capitol Hill riots, which, man, that was a day, to be honest. You know, what are your thoughts?
I've never been so afraid to live in the United States than that day in particular, because I really thought I was in like Civil War era.
It felt like it.
I was concerned that I was going to walk out my door the next day and I don't know what was going to happen to me. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I agree. Just, there have been a lot of like monumental and historical events in the lifespan of a millennial. But wow. Just fucking wow, honestly. Like, that one is almost like, I don't want to call it cherry on top because it was not, but just like it just highlights how crazy of a time we've been living in for like the last 20 to like 40 years or so. Just because that one's like, out of all of them, like that one is definitely going in the history book. Just like, what the fuck was going on that day? And when you look at like what led to that event, and then like we were talking about back on number 7 on our list with the voting laws being challenged, and then when we look at what was going on and last year, like the elections for 2020, it's just like, whoa. Yeah,
never has misinformation been a more important topic than looking at the January 6th insurrection.
Honestly,
because that's what it will do. That's how dangerous misinformation is.
Honestly. Like,
and,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, the lesson has not been learned, clearly.
No, I was going to make a parallel between the Salem witch trials, where, you know, people were just like, oh, this person is a witch. And everyone was like, sure. You know, that type of mass hysteria has happened before. And you would think that, you know, you hear about those things and you're like, that's stupid. That could never happen. In fact, why would anyone be a witch? But then you look at the modern parallels to it and you're like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, it's like learn what metaphors are. Like Jesus,
Just learn what metaphors are, people. That's really all
you
you got
really
to do.
can't take things so literally
No.
sometimes. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something better.
Let's talk about something way better. The Black and X inaugural conference happened right around Juneteenth this year. It was definitely one of my favorite events of the year because it was also a combination. It's a combination of a lot of things. One, just the massive. I've been calling it a revolution actually that has been happening in Black science. Going back to another crazy event that happened in 2020 with on the same day that George Floyd got killed, there was the Black Birder event in New York, which just sparked just protests across the country, but also just a lot of Black scientists going. We've had enough. And there was Black and Kim, like we were saying, Black and Cardio. We've had Dr. Kaz on here, and you know those things like culminated in the Black and X conference this year, and a lot of B-SCI was part of it. I did a workshop on, I think, leadership. Janae did a conference on, or not a conference. She did a workshop on, I think it was something with politics. And I know Dr. Tolson, again, like, just did something too. I forget. And then she also said on the one. She was a panelist for the one I was leading. So we were all over there. But it's just nice to, and then meeting new people from that community, or for not just the broader Black and X community, because there were just a lot of people who started multiple Black and X weeks. Crazy, like how do you have time? But it's just wow, and I appreciated all of that.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show, like, when you really show up for yourself, the way that we've been showing up for ourselves in the Black and X community, it really makes a huge difference in our mental health. I think just being able to like connect with people who are just as excited about the things that you're excited about. Like, there's nothing more beautiful than representation, and that's all I've seen all year. Like, the Black and X community has been so important. So yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, don't be surprised if in 2022 you get more of them. Like, because why not? Like, they are amazing. We've talked about a couple of them already. As we've tried to think about who we might invite on the podcast next year, and I'm sure more might pop up. Honestly, like, it seems like every day that someone else is like, "Hey, I should start a Black and X week that's focused on this," and they do it. So,
Yeah, it's a good way to not feel so alone.
Exactly.
Because if you find out, like, oh, I like this really niche thing. Oh, wow, me too. Like,
right.
It's just nice. So
yeah, so looking forward to all that, and looking forward to that continuing to grow, which I hope it does. We talk to them and talk about how things can move forward, and I'm excited to see what might happen. Yeah. And then moving on to number 2 on this, as we get to both the number 2 for good and bad, we get to the COP26 climate action or event, and it fell short, which, considering some of the things we've already touched on this year about climate change this year, is highly disappointing. So basically, I don't remember all the details from that event, but basically what happened was a bunch of the most developed countries in the world, some of the more powerful leaders, all got together at a conference basically and talked about how they were going to tackle climate change. And I remember the reaction from media and journalists after the event being like, they did things, but it's still not enough. And to be this deep into, which has been now a decade's fight against climate change, and for all these people to get into a room and go, we're going to do something about it, and to still fall short is disappointing, to say the very least.
yeah, I mean, I know I like to kid around that time doesn't exist, because it doesn't. But it's like time is of the essence, and we're already starting to see the effects of climate change happen right in front of us, and it's not going to get better. I mean, it's just not, right?
Nope,
so
it's not.
it's just really upsetting to see, like, these are clear things that we can change and fix and implement to make things better, and to still fall short is just, Yeah, it's disappointing. It's really disappointing.
It's disappointing because, as we've talked about, a number of things on this list, from the pipelines to the tornado in Texas to the power grid failure, all of those things. And then one thing I put a note to myself to talk about this on here too, is that this year Hurricane Ida came through the Northeast, and it did a job on all of the Northeast cities, like Philly. We talked about it on the podcast, how 676 was just going underwater, ridiculous. And not to mention that one of the biggest subway systems in the world in New York completely flooded. That's wow. That should not be happening. And then I was listening to another podcast. I was listening to Factually with Adam Conover a couple of days ago, and he was talking to someone about water. And this is the second time in the last 20 years that the New York subway system flooded. And they had just fixed it from the first time when this happened. Ridiculous, people. Ridiculous.
Yeah, these are events that are going to keep happening. Is what's so scary. And they don't come without fatalities.
Nope.
So, lives are being lost because we can't figure it out. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that has happened that has helped move things in the right direction is that recently there was a logistics bill that got passed that had things about climate change in it, and hoping to get certain industries to I was about to say net neutrality. That's not what it was. Carbon neutral. But even that might not be enough now. Like, there needs to be a lot more, and we got to get on this. Like, it's not just like one thing I've also heard too is that it's on the individual, but it's not just on the individual. It needs to be like one person alone. Like, even 100 people, a city cannot be climate change. It needs to be everybody. It needs to be the corporations. It needs to be the politicians. If it's not that, then it will not happen. And it needs to start with those two things first, honestly.
Yeah, I think it really comes back to like the priorities that this country is putting forth. Like, I saw a quote on some social media that was just like, we can't drink oil. No. All these pipelines, sure, you can pop them up, make the millions that you make from it, but people still have to live in these conditions. People still have to like function. Right. And this is beyond the scope of what one person or a community of people can do. So yeah, just agreeing with you that like this cannot fall back on the people, like it's just not fair.
It's not. It's yeah. I can't even say anything else. It's not fair. And moving to number 2, on August 28th, we had a live stream event. That was probably one of my favorite, because we had talked about that one for a while. We talked about trying to get as many board members on one episode of B-SCI as possible. And we finally did it for our 828 live stream. And who else did we have but Dr. Chanel Towson? And of course, we had our science communication officer, Chad Singleton, who also hosts the Square Round Table. And it was a great episode. And we didn't even talk. I don't feel like we talked enough about Chad this, honestly. Like, Chad has had so many amazing guests on his podcast this year. Yes. It's kind of crazy.
Chad is busy. Okay. Yeah. He is always doing something.
Right.
Not to mention the conference coming up in February.
Right. ComSciCon.
ComSciCon is coming up. Chad is on the organizing committee.
Hey, Chad.
Like, come on. Like, he is really doing stuff.
Doing big things.
Yeah, definitely check him out. And it was so cool to have him on. Like, I feel like I was talking to celebrities.
Honestly.
It was just like, wow, I'm in the presence of greatness.
Yeah. So I remember a couple of people that Chad has had on his podcast this year. He's had like 2 people who were like the English actors for people on the Squid Game. Am I saying the name right?
Yeah, Squid Game.
Yeah, Squid Game. Which I watched like not that long ago. I forget. Anyway, but like I remember the first day he told me about it. I was just like, what are you saying right now? He was like, yeah, I got the cop. I was like, you got who? You got the cop. And then the next episode was one of the women who was in part of the games. And I'm like, how are you doing this? And then the episode right after that, he had the model who they used for Abby in The Last of Us 2. And I was like, bro, you can't, what, how are you doing this? And he's just like, I just reached out to people. And I'm like, that's a lot, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see how he reaches out to people, because like they just will show up and I'll be like,
Just show up.
what? You just talked to them and they said yes? That's how that works? Seriously?
It's crazy. And he just keeps doing it. And he just keeps getting bigger names. It's like, wow.
Yeah, like there is no limit to who Chad can ask to
Honestly,
show up.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I really think he could get like Joe Biden to show up.
He
or
might.
something.
He might just be like, what are you doing right now, Michelle Obama? She
Yeah.
might just show up.
Yeah, like just casual
Man.
too. So
Man,
definitely follow the Score Roundtable. They it's always so interesting,
Right.
and cool. Whoever they have on, it's just like, wow, he did it again.
again. He did it again. All right. So we're at our number ones for good and bad. But before we get to that, I do want to talk about the honorable mention. It's honestly very appropriate to talk about right now. I saw a stat, and I wish I would have did a little bit better research on this, but it said something like we've pretty much vaccinated at least 50% of the world. But reason I'm saying I wish I would have did more research on this, because I said that to Jenna earlier, and she immediately was like, that's probably most just of the developed countries, which leads into our number one for things we hated about 2021, which is the pandemic just keeps going.
Yep.
As we speak right now, we're dealing with the Omicron variant, and it's just we're like halfway through the Greek alphabet right now.
Yeah.
And I also just looked at the global death total. We've had 274 million cases and 5.34 million deaths since the pandemic started last March 2020. And honestly, December of 2019 is when they really started. That's crazy.
Yeah. And I don't know how many times we can harp on how terrible this is. It doesn't matter if you had like a very mild case and like, oh, it was whatever. People aren't having mild cases. And you have to have some compassion, especially for our healthcare workers who are literally going to battle every day. But yeah, just going back to the other half of the world that's not vaccinated currently, these underdeveloped countries who aren't getting the recognition or help that they could be getting from these other developed countries who have stocks of vaccines, and just not being able to send it to these other countries. It's just kind of disgusting. And especially now with the Omicron variant that was initially discovered from scientists in South Africa. And the first thing that people did was start banning countries from South Africa, even though they're the ones that helped out the rest of the world with finding this new variant, which is just crazy, because it's just goes back to xenophobia and just exclusion. And, it's just, how many times are we going to do this? So
that's a great question, Jenna. I'm also just thinking about those numbers that I just said. I'm like, how would that look? Like I'm playing like a mental game of like what those numbers will look like. The population of the United States is like 300 million people. Somewhere, I think it's a little bit more. That's almost that many people in the world have gotten COVID at least once. The death total, 5.34 million. I think that's about either the population. I think LA is like 6 million people. I think I might be a little bit off, but I think it's around that, because I know Chicago's like 2 million and LA is a little bit is bigger than that. So that's what happened in the span of a year in like almost 2 years now. That's what happened. Like, and then you're talking about this logistic problem of we have stockpiles of the vaccine here in America. And yet there are people who are like, yeah, but the vaccine, I'm not getting it. What?
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. And then you were saying earlier about the how January 6th is why misinformation is not good. And here it is again. It is I cannot explain how, like, there are a lot of reasons, like, I've been having mental health problems, grad school, the state of the world, but like specifically misinformation is one that like really just gets me sometimes. I will go down spirals of like why I hate hearing about conspiracy theories and hearing about like people just doing bad science and oof.
Yeah, I'm really tired of seeing videos of people on their deathbed essentially saying, "Oh, I didn't believe in COVID before, but now that I have it, please get vaccinated."
Right.
Don't wait until you're on your deathbed to say that.
Yeah.
Just, that's all I can really say.
Yeah, and get the booster shot. And because I was trying to get it, and it's hard to get it right now because so many people are like, "This is about to happen again. We thought we were done." Like, you get the boost if you have a chance to get the booster shot. Get the booster shot, and even get the flu vaccine this year. Do whatever you need to. Like, this has been going on for 2 years. Like, let's. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to do something about it now. Or it's just going to keep getting worse.
Yeah.
These variants don't just occur out of nowhere. They occur because people are still getting sick and it's allowed to mutate within that time span. So, I mean, we don't need to keep doing this.
We don't need to keep doing this. But we're going to segue to the one thing that was really good about 2021, which is that we had B-SCI, the Black Science Coalition and Institute, had a record year for donations. We haven't done the tally yet, but we know that we had our single biggest donation day during the 828 live stream event, which is part of Young Black and Giving Back Institute's Giving Black Day, which has a lot of things to do with what that day means in the Black community, from the day that Martin Luther King did his walk on Washington, his march on Washington, to some other events that we talked about during the live stream. And just thank you, like, from the bottom of our hearts as we go into 2022. Like, there are a lot of things that we have the flexibility to do just with those donations that we got that day and the ones that we've been getting all year. I can't wait to see what we do in 2022 because of that. But I could gush about it all day. But Jenna, what you got?
Yeah, no, I think it was really cool to see everyone kind of collectively understand and realize where we're coming from and the vision that we have, and the things that we want to accomplish. And it's just really nice to get that recognition and to just feel a part of something. I think a lot of what was the downfall for me of this past year was just not feeling like I fit in anywhere. But really, I think B-SCI has been that one place where I know that I fit in and I can feel confident in that.
Yeah, Madam Founder.
Barely.
No,
but no,
definitely.
But seriously,
wholeheartedly.
It's been really nice for sure. And it gives me like a reason to want to do more. And I just can't wait to see where we go in the next year and beyond. And I just hope you want to be a part of it, as you've continued to be. I hope maybe if this is your first episode, maybe not. But either way, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that we can all kind of keep doing this. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. We have a lot planned for 2022. We are, like, some of the things are just things that we couldn't accomplish for whatever reason in 2021. So, those are going to happen next year. Like the magazine, for example, is one thing that we're like right on the cusp of being done of, or done for in terms of in getting it ready so we can start putting stuff on the website for it. And then, like we were saying earlier, a bunch of different guests that we have in mind to put on the podcast, and some other things that, you know, probably just need to be workshopped a little bit more, but they're on the way. One thing I will say is, like, if you know someone who helps produce podcasts, could you let them know about us? Because we would love to have someone help us produce the podcast and make it a little bit better. Because one thing we talked about earlier this year was doing deep dives.
Yes.
But, you know, that takes a lot of work.
It does.
And
time and effort.
Right. So if we had a podcast producer, we could definitely get that done. So if you know someone, just let them know about B-SCI. Our contact information is contact us at theb-sci.org. Or you can just go to b-sci.org and you can find it there. But I know Jenna has to go. So I think this might also be the last time I see you in 2021.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you
for being part of B-SCI.
Yeah, and I just can't wait to keep doing this in the new year. And I can't wait for you and I to encourage people to be scientists.
We'll see you next year, people.
We out.
Be Scientist is a podcast by the Black Science Coalition and Institute, or B-SCI, a 501c3 nonprofit. Be Scientist is hosted by both Jenna Carpenter, chemist, and B-SCI's Research and Development Officer, and Jordan Chapman, geoarchaeologist and B-SCI's president. Music is produced by Delaralo, and lyrics are by Jana. Special thanks to Michael Mike Castor Marshall and the Plaza Abbey Studios. If you'd like to donate to B-SCI, visit our official website, b-sci.org. That's b-sci.org. Your donation supports Be Scientist and B-SCI's other projects. We couldn't do it without you. So please tune in next time, and always be scientists.